We're not knocking the camera over today. Hello everyone, welcome back to Ink and Fig. My name is Alex, and today I'm dressed like a cowboy. I am in my Western best, aka the only Western shirt I own, to mark the occasion of the final day of the Calgary Stampede. I'm going to be telling you about 10 books that I plan on reading throughout the rest of 2022. If you saw my last video, the big mid-year freakout tag, I already mentioned a number of books at the end of that video that I do want to read this year. Those books are still on my want-to-read list, however, I don't want to discuss them again because I have so many other books that I would also like to read this year. My goal for the year of 2022 is to read 36 books. I am sitting at 27 right now. Somehow, by some miracle, I'm doing that well. So I anticipate that I'm going to be reading more than 36 books this year, so I'm going to need books what for to read. 10 books that I would like to read this year that are not the ones from my mid-year freakout tag. Let's get into it. The first book that I'd like to talk about is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I've heard mixed reviews about this. The poor reviews that I've heard about this is that people feel as though nothing really happened. And I think that's a fair take. However, a lot of the Japanese literature that I read kind of does that. There's a big sense that I get from, at least, again, the Japanese literature that I've been reading has a lot to do with sort of ennui and like the space between things. There is a word for that in Japanese. I don't remember what it is, but I'm going to put it up on the screen here for you. And I feel like that concept really comes out in this literature as well. It's sort of the space between events that carries meaning. And that's what I'm expecting to find a lot of in this book. Ultimately, what the plot of this book looks like is that there is a particular table in this cafe, and if you order a particular drink to this table, you will get transported somewhere in time. I don't think you can do any, like, time fuckery changing things. You're just sort of there to observe, which again kind of plays into that idea I was just talking about. But regardless, I think this is going to be a whole vibe. My second book is a bit of a heavier one, but I'm ready for it, I think. I've sort of been talking about coming off of a bit of a mental health thing the last couple of weeks, and I think I'm in sort of a space now, and I'm hoping going forward that I will continue to be in that space where I can get to this book, and that is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This is, from what I understand, about a young lady who chooses to kill herself, and then goes to this library wherein she can see all of the different permutations of what her life could have looked like, if she had made different choices, like in different universes, that kind of thing. So I think this is going to cover a lot of topics that I really like. I don't know if this sort of comes from my own personal experience, but like as someone with a disability, I think frequently about how my life could be different if I was not disabled and what I would be doing and all the different hobbies I would have. Because they would be different. If I had a different ability level, I would be doing different things in my life. And I like the idea that someone else is kind of thinking along those lines. Now, granted, there's that huge mental health piece in here as well, which also hits very close to home. So I know this is going to be a heavier read, but I am looking forward to it. On the topic of depressing literature, I also want to get to The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller this year. I already know how this story pans out because I am a huge Greek mythology aficionado. I have been since I was like 11 years old when I was first introduced to it. And this just, it follows one of the most tragic stories in the canon of Greek mythology, from my perspective in any case. And this finally explores the fullness of that relationship that I don't think we necessarily got to look at in its fullness in the mythological canon. So I am really excited to read this. I do know how it ends. It's not a mystery. And I'm really excited to feel this story in its fullest. On the topic of Madeline Miller, Circe is also on my list, or Circe. I used to read this Circe, but everyone is now reading it Circe, as in Cersei Lannister. So I'm not sure what that's all about. I don't actually know a whole lot about this book. I'm just kind of glancing at the back right now. And I kind of don't want to. Like, I know of Circe from, again, the greater Greek mythological canon, and I'm just interested to see how we look at her story. Because we have a female main character, things are obviously going to get a little bit weird because the Greek gods were not nice to women. Surprise, surprise. So I'm rooting for her already. I know nothing about the story, but I already know that I'm rooting for her. So I'm hoping I can get to this one this year, and if not, this is going to be a 2023 read for sure. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. It finally came in the mail! I'm so excited. So On Rotation is by Dr. Shirley Nobuobu, who is a doctor. From what I've seen on her Instagram, she describes this as her exercise in writing what she knows. So she's writing about a young black woman who is on the road to becoming a doctor. I believe she's in her residency. I'm not entirely sure how the whole like career arc for a doctor goes. So if I am incorrect, I'm going to learn when I finally get to this book. But I believe that she is on residency or in residency. I'm not sure. I don't know what I'm saying. Basically, our main character, Angela. Her name is Angela. So Angela is a young black woman who is beginning her career. She's sort of making that transition from school to the workplace, and she's trying to balance all of the different facets of her life. So there's love story in here, there's career story, there's obviously social commentary on racism in the medical industry and just in America in general. So there's going to be a lot going on in this book, and I am so stoked to read it. The next book that I'm hoping to get to this year is Memorial by Brian Washington. I have heard such good things about this book. Basically, it's about a gay couple who sort of come to a bit of an impasse in their relationship, and they're sort of trying to decide who they are as individual people, whether or not this relationship is actually working for them rather than against them. And in the midst of this, one of the characters' fathers falls ill in Japan, so he has to go back. Meanwhile, his mother is coming to him to visit. So they kind of are ships passing in the night, and now his mother is spending the duration of her vacation with his partner. So they are sort of a pair of unlikely roommates, and the other character is going to spend his estranged father's last moments with him. So this is going to be chock full of like family drama and relationship drama, and I'm hoping a lot of growth, and I actually don't know how this ends, whether they stay together or choose to break up. I know I'm definitely rooting for them because this kind of feels like a very relatable situation, you know, especially when you're in a long-term relationship. For context, I've been in my relationship for almost 10 years now, and every now and then you sort of come to that impasse, and it's like, is this the thing? And you sort of have to, it's a lot of soul searching, right? Like figuring out who you are, talking with your partner, figuring out who they are, figuring out whether you're going in the same direction, you know, if you're just at different points in your life. And like sometimes, like that's sort of just how relationships go, right? You grow apart, you come back together, and it comes in waves, right? And that's natural for people, human beings growing. So I'm rooting for them. I'm hoping they come out the other side happy, one way or the other. And I'm interested to see how the whole partner living with his partner's mother thing is gonna go, because honestly, that just sounds like the sitcom of the century, and I'm excited to see where that goes. My next read that I'm hoping to get to this year is The Henna Artist by Alka Joshi. I have seen this in every recommended list for the last year and a half. Everyone is screaming about this on Instagram, and I'm super into that. So I'm hoping to get to this one. It seems like, as per usual with me, I'm trying to go into this book more or less blind, to just be swept away in the story and go on whatever journey the author wants me to go on. So I don't know much about it. I know that she escapes from an arranged marriage that she was not into, and then becomes a henna artist to sort of the elite of Jaipur. And that is all that I want to know going into it. I'm just excited for the vibes, I'm excited for the growth, and like, I feel like this is going to be a really interesting book. So the next read is gonna be one that, again, I've heard a lot of sort of mixed reviews about. And that book is The Atlas Six by Olive Blake. Full disclosure, I want to read this book because the cover's beautiful, but I have heard some interesting things about it. So, from what I understand, there are two versions of this book. There is the one that was self-published, and there was the one that was traditionally published. This one is from Tor, so I'm not sure which side of the discussion this book is on. But I understand that the traditionally published one was better in that it addressed some issues with pacing that the self-published version had, which, like, honestly, fair enough. Sometimes you just need that extra push from external folks to get your, especially pacing, on track, because pacing is a really tough thing to get. So, I'm interested to see where this goes. I know that it's very sort of dark academia, that it gets into sort of a found family kind of trope, I think. And honestly, found family is like my favorite thing of all time. So, I'm interested to see where this goes and how we get there. So speaking of dark academia, my last two picks are also going to be in the dark academia vein. The first one, surprising no one, is The Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I am slowly falling in love with Leigh Bardugo. I think that she is an absolutely fabulous person. Her writing is just growing and growing and growing the longer she's in this industry. And this one, I've been told, is her first non-fantasy, or how should I say this? The first non-young adult fantasy that she's done so far. So I'm excited to see where her writing sort of amps up into a more adult direction. Again, I sort of know very little about this book, so I can't speak much to the plot. But I know that the main character and I seem to share a name, and that already has me on board. Just also, like, after everything that I've been reading from Leigh Bardugo this year, I'm just really interested to see how her style translates into more adult literature, and then also just to dive into a completely different world. This has nothing to do with the Grishaverse in any way, shape, or form, and I want to see where else her writing can stretch into outside of that universe. Alright, my last book. Again, sticking with the dark academia theme, the last book I'm picking for this year is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I don't know how I haven't gotten to this book yet. Don't come for me. I'm getting there. I'm hoping to actually fit this in during October because I think the vibes are just going to be immaculate. And I'm going to need a really good distraction because I'm getting married in October and I'm going to need to get out of my head for a little bit that month. Just that I don't completely overwhelm myself. And I think this is going to be a really good escape to help me through that. So, this book I know, once again, nothing about, which is fine. I don't know how I haven't been spoiled for this yet, to be completely honest with you. I'm very impressed with myself. I've heard absolutely fantastic things. This seems to be sort of one of the seminal texts for the dark academia subgenre, and I'm interested to see what about it has caused such a stir in the community. And I'm hoping maybe that it's even good, you know? Because with some of these dark academia ones that you read, it's like forcibly pretentious, which I don't necessarily enjoy, and I'm hoping that this isn't that. I think one of the books that really towed the line there was If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I read that last year, and it was good, and I rated it 5 stars, but it was really pushing that line into just being a pretentious piece of literature. But I think that the story kind of dialed back a little bit from, like, the elitism that was getting pushed in that narrative, kind of by the main character. So I'm interested to see what the vibe is on this one. I know there's going to be drug use in this book, which I think is interesting, because I haven't seen that in a dark academia yet. So there's going to be something new in here for sure. And then also I will have read basically like the seminal text for dark academia. So hopefully between those books and the 3 that I mentioned in my last video, I'm gonna be able to do some more reading this year. Maybe we'll see if I can get me to 50. Ultimately, the reason I wanted to make this video was so that I could then revisit it in January and roast myself on whether or not I actually finished these books or if I completely avoided them. we'll see how and where this goes. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to go follow me on all of my social media at Ink and Fig. We have a website starting to take shape. I don't have any content up there yet, but there will be soon. Not to worry. Leave a like, comment me one book down below that you are hoping to get to for the rest of 2022, and we can cheer each other on as we go. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet, because we've got new stuff coming out all the time, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!